Parents often go through so much anxiety because you have to protect your kids. And forget sleep. There are gonna be sleepless nights for months and years. Should I have a child or not? If a girl asked this question 100 years ago, her mother would have given her a tap on the head. Stop asking me dumb questions. Go bring my tea. And one for your brother too. This question would have been dumb 100 years ago, but not today. More and more people are now questioning whether they should have a child or not. A quick fact about overall birth rates, fertility rates. In the last few decades, they have been going down. In 1950, the global fertility rate per woman was 5.05, and by 2020, it reduced to 2.44. So most people are having less kids, some are having no kids at all. And what are the major reasons behind this decline? One big reason is women's education and their career. Education shrinks the window in which women can have children because now women are studying till their 20s and they only produce children after that. Earlier they used to start producing children even in their teens. As women become more and more independent and have their own goals and have their own careers, they don't want to mess it up because of the childbirth. Second reason is low mortality. That is, more and more children are surviving because of advanced medicine and health. Basically, earlier people were having more kids as a backup. Imagine if a child realizes that, okay, my parents just brought me into this world as a backup. Like the child asks the dad, if you don't even have money to buy me a nice jacket, why did you bring me into this world? Well, so that if your elder brother dies, we have someone who can change our diapers when we are really old. Third big reason is money. Increased cost of raising a child has actually made people less likely to have kids. This has happened especially due to all the urbanization. And another big one is just access to contraception. People now can have sex without consequences. Earlier, sex meant it could lead to a child. Now you can have sex and choose whether you want a child or not. You can have 100 partners but not a single baby. I discussed all the stats to reassure you that if you're wondering about the question, should I have a child or not, you're not the only one. And you're not insane despite your mother's firm belief that you've lost your mind. Today's video is going to be a long one. It's going to be divided in 3 sections. First, I'll discuss 3 myths around having a child. Second, I'll discuss benefits and costs to you. Third, I will give my own verdict for you, whether you should have a child or not. First myth would be it's important to have kids because it's natural, or basically taking extra pressure to have kids because you think it's your biological diktat, like you're supposed to do this. Let me explain why it's a myth. At the core of our biology is genes, our DNA, and our genes simply are replicators. Your genes simply want to be copied again and again into the population more than the rival genes. So at the core, 2 fundamental things that genes want from us is survive and reproduce. But how would it happen? For that, genes build our brain and our body. Your brain comes installed with some motives, some desires. So your brain has motives like hunger, thirst, which makes you search for food and eat food and feel pleasure when you have eaten food. That's how we get our calories and we survive. Brain also has this desire for sex, which makes you want to find a partner and have sex and feel pleasure after having sex. And when sex leads to babies, this brain helps us get connected to the baby, find the baby very cute, and makes us want to nurture, protect, and love the baby. And that's how reproduction and raising the baby till their adulthood happens. So now we need to start looking at brain as this separate entity from genes. Genes want to be copied, brain wants to eat food and have sex. Of course, your brain does way more than that, hopefully. So in a way, genes actually built the brain and handed over the keys to the brain. Now brain has responsibility of running your body and your life. The wheel of your life is in the hands of the brain. And the interesting thing is that the brain can actually disregard the order from the genes. The brain can go against survival instinct because it can make somebody commit suicide. The brain can make you go against the instinct for sex, like a priest choosing to go celibate, no sex for life. These are choices made by the brain against the wishes of the gene. And whenever the brain disregards the genes can't come back into the picture and tell the brain, what the hell are you doing, buddy? That's not why I made you. Now the great news is your brain has the ability to process information, to reason, to gather knowledge. So as desires and information mixes in your brain can form its own goals. Like, I want success, I want to become famous, I want to do community service, I want to run a marathon, I want to travel the whole world. If you want a good life, that is coming from the desires from the brain, because genes don't care about your good life. Genes don't care whether you're happy at the age of 50.
I'm so happy.
I don't give a shit.
Genes just want you to survive long enough to reproduce. So if you, that is your brain, really wants to have a good life, really want to be happy, you will have to rely on the brain's ability to reason and solve problems. The final decision maker for your life should be the processing from your brain, the reasoning from your brain, not your biological diktats, not your genetic code, which we consider natural. And that's why people who say just because it's natural, it's better, they're logically wrong. It is technically very natural for a man to cheat on his wife with 100 other women. But does that lead to a good life? I hope you agree it does not. So if someone says have kids mainly because it's natural, that should not be your main argument behind having kids. You should have kids if it appeals to your reason. Second myth, if you don't have kids, you'll regret your whole life. First, I want you to realize that our brains are regretting machines. Your brain is in the game of constant comparison and regret and envy. So some regret in life is completely inevitable. But the question is it going to be a huge regret? In fact, my instinct said it would be a big regret. But then I looked into some research, and there have been many analyses on this, and research after research, they found out that in the long run, there are no significant differences in the well-being of people who have children and people who don't have children. And the reason behind the regrets not being so deep probably could be our ability to adapt. Like wherever we are, we find a way to make the most of it. If any new problems arise, we learn how to solve them. We find a way to rationalize our decisions. We find a way to just start liking the choices we made. Plus, even if you don't have children, people end up finding other ways to seek happiness and meaning in their lives because we do have a lot of flexibility there. So yeah, there could be some FOMO of not having kids, but it's not too huge. It's not going to make you miserable, and that fear of regret should not be the main reason why you have kids. Third myth actually goes in the opposite direction. Some people choose to not have kids because they think they're contributing to overpopulation. Most people are not aware of the fact that we don't have an overpopulation problem. If anything, like I said in the beginning, the fertility rates are going down. In most developed countries, there is actually shortage of people. They're trying to make up for it by loosening their immigration policies. They're allowing more migrants into their country, and it's projected that in a few decades, the population could actually be shrinking. Some even predict a population collapse. So if you want to have kids, don't feel guilty because of this overpopulation idea. Your kid actually is necessary to this world. We need young, capable people who can contribute to the society. Now let's come to the benefits and costs to you. I researched a lot on the internet. I actually surveyed people directly to understand the costs and benefits of having a child. Now, this is important for everybody to know because some people are unaware of some costs and some people are unaware of some benefits. So you should know the full range of costs and benefits before you make the decision. Let's begin with costs. I think everybody knows the costs to some degree because the parents keep reminding you. In studies, on average, parents are actually found to be less happier than people who do not have kids. And before I begin the costs, just want to mention the costs are probably 10, 20 or I don't know 50 times more for women than it is for men. And we can start with that only. During pregnancy and afterwards, women's bodies, they have to go through so much. Even the process of childbirth is so painful. Of course, there are always risks of some complications which can actually make the whole process more difficult. Then another cost is literally the cost of money. Cost of raising a child is actually a big one. You have to spend so much of your hard-earned money on your child, like their food, clothes, education, entertainment, medical bills, etc., etc., etc. The money that you could have spent on yourself in a 5-star restaurant, getting a spa, traveling around the world. Also, parents often go through so much anxiety because you have to protect your kids. You have to take so many decisions and you're worried about if decisions will go right or wrong. And forget sleep. There are going to be sleepless nights for months and years. You'll just be constantly sleep deprived. And kids, they just take up so much of your time. Like they need more attention than an Instagram influencer. Be prepared to give a lot of likes and comments. Children actually become a huge source of fights between partners. The more decisions you need to take, the more opportunities to fight. Your career can be affected. You won't be able to take risks anymore. You have to work hard to pay the bills now. For women, they might have to take long breaks during and after pregnancy, and that does affect their employability. Your social life changes. You won't be able to meet your friends so often anymore. Your weekends will be more about buying diapers and groceries. Traveling would pretty much be a hassle. You would have to think 10 times before you can step out of the house for more than a few hours. And then a big cost is just actually managing those children. They may turn out to be very emotional, angry. Kids can be very, very demanding. Like they are very selfish. They may fall sick. They may not do well at school. They may be born with some illness. Anything happens, you would have to be the one managing it. Like after listening to these costs, like you would think, why the hell would anyone ever have a kid? But the reality is people do have kids. And despite that, people are constantly choosing parenthood. And then you may think, wait, yes, they choose parenthood because they're not aware of these costs, so they must regret a lot later. Turns out that's not true. There have been researches for that too. Like if you ask people, given a choice, if you had to do it all over again, would you still have kids? Turns out, like in different researches, only 7 to 20% people say, no, I won't have kids again. 80 to 90% people say, yes, if they had to do it all over again, they would have kids yet again. So this means there must be some benefits too, right? Let's now get into those benefits. First of all, babies are just so cute. Seeing a baby smile, laugh, it's one of the deepest pleasures parents experience. When a child comes to hug you, like sleep in your lap or climbs on your chest, there is no better feeling in the world. Children also have this unconditional love for you, at least for some time, if you treat them right. For them, you're the absolute top priority. You are their everything. You get this feeling of empowerment that, oh, I produced this human being, like I did this. I'm responsible for the journey of this little human's life. Kids are literally part of you, like they share 50% of your DNA. So the level of kinship or the intimacy that you feel with your child is just unmatched with any other connection in the world. You would never feel those kind of connections with a friend, let's say. And for many people, the love that comes out for a baby actually comes as a surprise to them also. Like, I thought I was an emotionless robot. Where is this love coming from? Why am I so gushy for this kid? When a kid comes into your life, it's like you open up a new part of your personality, like something you never thought existed. Parents actually get surprised at themselves, like I had no idea that I had the ability to make such sacrifices happily. Like I never thought I could be this selfless. Then parents often say they enjoy like every little moment of their child's growth. It's like almost reliving their own childhood now from an external point of view. And many parents talk about how it actually helps build their character. Like they become way more responsible after having a kid. You feel like becoming a better human for your child, like because you want to give them everything and you want the kid to learn from you. So many parents say having a child made me a better person. Another interesting benefit is you end up understanding your parents way more. After having a kid, parents realize how much their parents must have loved them. And now they understand why the parents were always so anxious. Why were they so angry about little things? Why were they so protective? You would have this newfound respect for your own parents. And more than all that pleasure that I just described, parents actually find a lot of meaning in raising a baby. It's like it's our duty sort of to this world to create this human, this capable human, and giving them to this society. Like they find meaning in passing on their knowledge and wisdom to the next generation. And this is also confirmed by studies that parents on average, they may be less happier, but they find their life more meaningful. So these were some of the benefits of having a child. Now let's come to the final section, my verdict. Because after hearing the benefits and cost, now you do know the whole range, but you may still be confused. Like, what do I do? Like, which side is bigger? Do benefits outweigh the costs? What final decision should I make? Obviously, everybody would be making their own decision and it will be different, but I'll give you my verdict, my opinion. So after understanding the long-term benefits and costs and desires of people, my verdict is that overall, at least 80% of the people actually should have kids. By that, I essentially mean that in the long run, 80% of the people would be able to have more benefits than costs. There's actually a lot of flexibility in how much benefits and costs there are. Like you can reduce the cost and you can maximize the benefits. Let me explain. Many people actually overestimate the cost. Some people think that it's just like a lifelong disruption of our usual life, when actually it isn't. If you really look at parenting from like a very biological point of view, the most crucial years are the first 10-12 years. Those years require your maximum parenting effort, and after that you can start stepping back. And after 18 years, you can technically completely stop. Historically, children, even after the age of 10 to 12 years, they have been able to join the workforce. They have been capable enough to take care of the younger kids. They understand pretty much everything. They can take care of themselves. But most parents are actually unable to step back because of their own anxieties. They actually end up giving more time and energy than what's necessary or even what's healthy. So you're just enhancing the cost for yourself just because of your own temperament now. So you should look at it this way. If you have 2 children, let's say with a gap of 3 years, so in about 15 years, you can pretty much be done with your core parental roles. After that, you may just have to keep spending some money for their education, but not that much time and energy on managing children. You can pretty much get back to your normal life. Other than this, benefits can actually be maximized. You can invest some time in learning some relationship, parenting, and just social skills. Learning those skills will not just help you in your parenting, but they'll actually make you a better human overall. They'll help you in other areas too, like with your friends or your workplace. It's a win-win. And becoming better socially is probably the best thing you can do with your own life. Research after research shows that being able to spend time with people you like good social integration, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest factor in happiness. So if you want more happiness in life, it makes sense to have people around you who you really love. I actually want to tell you one more benefit, which is kind of universal in nature. By having children, you're actually making your life more diverse, hence richer in experiences. Like after having kids, you would be able to tell yourself, I got to experience that, like been there, done that. A great analogy would be traveling. Now, if I ask you, should I travel or not? What's the answer? Do I have to travel? Of course not. But if I do travel, that experience could be qualitatively different from just living in my house, going to work and coming back. You can technically spend your whole life living in your house and in a small village, and it's gonna be a good life. But by traveling, you can make it much more diverse and richer. Traveling also involves a lot of cost, a lot of discomfort. You end up fighting with your partner a lot. Still, after making a trip to the hills, you mostly feel good about it. You look back and feel good and feel proud that, oh, I did that. So having children is that fundamental experience of our existence, which is qualitatively different from everything else that you can experience in life. Daniel Kahneman talks about an experiencing self and a remembering self. So parenting can often make your experiencing self a little less happy, but it'll actually be a great addition to your remembering self. It'll make your remembering self very happy. So when you are young and looking ahead, you need to take care of both your experiencing self and your remembering self. How would you look back on your life 30, 40, 50 years from now? And there is enough research on it that for remembering self, 3 major things are a big change, significant events like peaks, and the ending. Those 3 matter the most for the remembering self. Parenting certainly gives you a big change and many significant high moments, and if you do it right, a great ending as well. By a good ending, I mean a smooth transition from parenthood to equal existence, like friendship with your children. What happens is, when you look back on your life, you tend to forget the little things, the day-to-day annoyances, the small difficulties. You actually forget all of that. So even though you're paying a lot of cost in the moment, but later when you're actually reflecting how my life has been, you'll actually feel great. Like a parallel would be everybody who goes to college and makes some great friends. When they look back on college, they always say, I had such a great time. In fact, some people refer to that as the greatest time of their life. And they say it despite the fact that when they were actually going to college, they hated going to the class, they hated listening to the lectures, they hated studying for the exams. But later in life, while they're looking back, they feel so much better about their own lives. Similar with parenting. You will pay a lot of cost, but when you do look back later on, you would feel that is one of the best things you did in your life. So I said earlier that probably 80% of the people should have kids. Now the question is, do you belong to that 80% or not? So according to my understanding so far, I have boiled it down to 2 criteria. First one, can you provide for your child? Like, do you have enough resources that after having children, you can still provide food, shelter, clothing, medicine, basic amenities for the whole family? I'm not talking about luxuries or maintaining a high standard of living. Basically, having children shouldn't throw you into poverty. So if you can provide for your children, that's the first check. Second criterion, are you able to enjoy and maintain relationships? Do you have the capability in you to enjoy and maintain long-term equal relationships with people? In other words, do you enjoy laughing with people? Do you enjoy having some close-knit friends? Do you enjoy doing things with some people? And essentially, would you be able to build a friendship with your child? If yes, that's a second big check. Why is this such an important criterion? Because, like I said, a big benefit to having children is to have loved ones around you, is to build those bonds which you won't get otherwise. But if you're someone who just doesn't know how to make relationships, you can keep providing for the children, you can keep spending all that time, money, energy, but you might still end up alone. So like a big chunk of benefit that you could derive from parenthood would be actually gone. So if you're a person who can provide for a child and build a friendship with a child, trust me, in the long run, the benefits that you will enjoy will be way more than the cost. You will not say, I wish I'd spent more time on my career. Don't trust me? Listen to this. I'm going to read out some quotes from some celebrities. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said, I wanted my kids to know me. I wasn't always there for them, and I wanted them to know why and to understand what I did. Interviewer then asked him if he was glad that he had kids in his life. And he said, it's 10,000 times better than anything I've ever done. Steve Jobs built Apple, which became the most valuable company on earth. He became a synonym for quality and excellence. And yet he says having children was 10,000 times better. Serena Williams. Maybe this goes without saying, but it needs to be said in a powerful way. I absolutely want more Grand Slams. And actually, I think having a baby might help. When I'm too anxious, I lose matches, and I feel a lot of that anxiety disappeared when Olympia was born. Knowing I've got this beautiful baby to go home to makes me feel like I don't have to play another match. I don't need the money or the titles or the prestige. I want them, but I don't need them. That's a different feeling for me. She was ranked number 1 woman tennis player for 319 weeks. She won 23 Grand Slams, second highest of all time. And after having the baby, she's saying she still wants the Grand Slams. She wants the title prestige, but she doesn't need it. And because she doesn't need it, there is less anxiety now. Something changed with her after having the baby. She's more fulfilled. Next, Ryan Reynolds. When someone asked him about fatherhood, he said, "I love it, man. I truly worship that kid. She says, Dada, and I will walk through a cement wall to go to her. If we were ever under attack, I would use my wife as a human shield to protect that baby." Now pay attention to those emotions, that experience, those feelings for someone. When did you feel those emotions for a friend? Even for your brother or your parents? Never. Jennifer Lopez. When I had my children and I felt that type of love, which I know you understand and every mom out there understands, it made me understand that there was a purity to love, that there is an unconditional love. Like I said earlier, she realized after having a baby that it's a qualitatively different experience. She had not experienced this kind of unconditional love before. Next, Hugh Jackman, the Wolverine. "The love I have for my wife is so intense, but nothing prepared me for the love I have for my kids. That feeling is overwhelming. The thought of them being in any trouble, any pain, I would do anything to avoid it. I would jump in front of a bus for them. I had about an hour at a supermarket where I lost my son, and let me tell you, it was the longest hour of my life." The feelings that he's describing, that he's getting from a son, you will not get them buying a bigger car or traveling to one more country or hanging out with your friends. It's just qualitatively different. Of course, I handpicked these quotes. There are many celebrities who would probably not feel the same way or may actually talk about challenges too. But I shared these quotes to just highlight what's possible with parenting. I wanted to highlight that people who had almost everything you could ever want in your life, what did they value the most? Over and over, it's been seen that in the end, in life, it becomes all about people you love and people who love you. So the final thing I would say is, whether you have kids or don't have kids, don't take that decision out of fear. In either case, your life will be fine. If you have kids, you'll be able to manage the costs. If you don't have kids, you'll manage to find pleasure in other ways. But if you can provide for kids and you can be friends with them, then do have kids. You will have a life which is much richer, and you would experience love which would be so profound it would be unmatched by any other love. Shridhar Lifeschool is a team of psychologists who specialize in counseling. If you're going through very difficult times or you want to achieve higher well-being, we offer one-on-one counseling for individuals, couples, parents, and their children. To book sessions, go to our website shridharlifeschool.com.